Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on this live event where we will be talking about killer robots and its gender perspectives. I am Bibiana from WILPF Sweden, and joining us is our guest, Dr. Ayo Ayoola, the president of WILPF Ghana and a strong advocate for the ban of the development and deployment of killer robots, also known as lethal autonomous weapon system. Her advocacy and that of WILPF Ghana has contributed to the ban of killer robots in Ghana. Hi, Ayo. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and I am so excited to have this very important conversation with you on killer robots and its gender implications.
Thank you, Bibi. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. And so we are just gonna go straight away. And I'll start by asking you, Ayo, to you, what do you think are killer robots, and why is the campaigns and advocacy against killer robots important in Ghana and globally?
Thank you, Bibi. Thank you, Bibi. Killer robots are weapon systems that will select and attack targets without meaningful human control.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, this means the decision to use deadly force will be delegated to a machine. Another term that we use to describe this weapon is, as you know, is lethal autonomous weapons. And it means that the battle tank, for example, or a fighter jet or a ship, these weapons do exist, the technology that would make them reality is already being developed. So when you see an autonomous selection and engagement of targets, it could be applied to various platforms, like a battle tank, as I said, a fighter jet, or a ship. So it's pretty dangerous. This far-reaching development would fundamentally change the way war is conducted. Already, we have serious issue globally when we have war situation. So you can imagine making it worse. So it will definitely have far-reaching developmental issues, and it will fundamentally change the way war is conducted. And it could be called the third revolution in warfare after gunpowder and atomic bomb. So we're not getting any better. That's the situation.
Thank you so much. From your explanation, it gets me thinking, like, why would countries get engaged in the creation of killer robots instead of building peace?
Yeah, you are trying to ask me questions on ethical concerns, because you expect that countries should have ethics, isn't it? I mean, they should know that human lives matter more than anything else. So when countries do that, there's a lot of reasons that countries who do that are not democratic. Obviously, they don't respect human rights. They don't respect the fact that human beings are of value, and weapons cause mass destruction. So most governments that do that are governments that have suppressed their people, so to say. And why are robots created, really? That's the question you're asking me about. And why are these countries patronizing them? Most robots today are used to do repetitive actions. That's what they are used to do. Jobs considered too dangerous for humans. If they leave it at that, you know, robot is not particularly a bad thing outrightly. We have aspects of robots that are good, but how do we make it remain at that instead of coming to destroy us as humans? So that's where the challenge is now. And most governments want power, and they want to attack their targeted so-called enemies and rivals. And it's a power thing. It's the fact that so they need those power, those instruments to do and undo, to threaten people around them because they don't believe that human rights matter. So I think that's the reason behind why they do that. They feel that they're securing their countries and their people, which to me is obviously not the truth. And they are rather giving more problems to them. So why they do that, it's really not what I can particularly say, because I don't know their reasons, but we speculate because we feel that these are the kind of governments that they run, and it doesn't respect human rights, it doesn't respect the United Nations mandates and all that. So of course they do all sorts of things because they want to acquire power, take people's lands, go to war, sell their weapons, propagate all sorts of evil that we see around now. So that to me is the reason why they do that. And they don't respect human rights, basically, and they don't respect their people and human beings globally. So we've heard a lot of arguments for potential robots that they said it saves lives and saves lives in war. So perhaps they are thinking that, okay, if we engage these robots, lives will be saved. Their soldiers' lives will be saved, or their populations, or whatever. But if you look forward to more convenience, less disease, and safer and cheaper transportation, that is more reasonable than for us investing in weapons like robots, because it's a two-edged sword. If used badly, they may one day perpetrate genocide and war crimes. Already we have genocide, we have war crimes, but it will be aggravated. It will explode. So if used well, they can also prevent them. But are they using these weapons well? Are they using these machines well? That's the question that we need to ask, because there is no guidelines and there's no limits. So we need to have legislations that can control all of this, and that those legislations must be implemented and respected. So we know that human nature is, by the way, even the so-called good robots are dangerously unpredictable. So you can imagine. So the unexpected behavior of even simple robots going to get more dramatic as A1 scales up, because artificial intelligence is moving faster than public policy, which shouldn't be so interesting.
Exactly.
You understand? Because public policy should be something that is close to our hearts, to the hearts of our leaders. Because, I mean, if you're a leader, you are supposed to serve the people's interests, not to undermine their interests. When you kill your population, you kill people globally. I mean, what else is left? Life is the most precious thing on earth. And if you destroy lives because you want to, gain power or acquire lands or take over people's islands or whatever, then it means that the purpose for which they voted you in has been defeated. So they don't respect their populations. They don't respect the global people either. They don't respect human beings, as it were. So in addition to that, you discover that any mention of killer robot brings images of Terminator film. I'm sure you have watched Terminator film. Scary, and people don't even understand what it is. And that's what we're in this campaign, to create awareness, to make people understand the magnitude, because they are fed with stories like, oh, this killer robot will help you. Of course, we know what it's doing in sciences, in hospitals, in hotel business, hospitality businesses and all that. But what about the downside? What about the lives that are being lost? What about the evil side of killer robots? So the point is creating a balance, if possible, or altogether stopping killer robots, because human lives matter more than all of this.
Thank you so much for that very elaborate explanation, and which it's so sad to get to understand that that killer robots they can cause disaster to this extreme, and to what we can even begin to imagine. And I'm just thinking about the aspects of human rights and gender relations. And I just want to ask you these questions. How how can we look at killer robots from a gender perspective, and what is the connection killer robots have with something like gender-based violence? And another very technical question that follows is, are these machines capable of committing sexual and gender-based violence?
Thank you, Bibi. You see, gender norms and patriarchal power structures affect the way we view, use, and engage with weapons and war, and even violence generally. I'm sure you know of domestic violence. I mean,
Yeah.
people use we use guns, and even guns that are produced locally to perpetrate evil against women and even men or whatever within the home. You can imagine. So fully autonomous weapons could contribute or worsen notions of militarized masculinities. So, I mean, they could be used to commit acts of gender-based violence, and they could increase inequality as a result of algorithm bias or target profiling. So it could profile or target a particular gender. You understand? That means perhaps a man or a woman, but most oftentimes it targets women too. And applying a gender lens and feminist approach to disarmament broadly will result in stronger policy. You see, these are the policies that can be used to curtail this. Stronger policies and better humanitarian protections, especially for women and marginalized groups. For instance, a treaty banning fully autonomous weapons will support feminist foreign policy goals by focusing on human security and preventing militarization of emerging technology and also technological advancements. So policy matters a lot. So how do we get that done? Gender-based violence could easily be enacted by fully autonomous weapons because they could select and engage their target, and they don't miss. These targets are not missed on the basis of target profiles. They could select on that basis and target women alone. You know, we have already seen target profiling based on gender in the use of semi-autonomous weapons such as armed drones. We know what drones did and what they still do. So, which have been used to target militants or count them as legitimate targets in casualty recording. So it can target anyone, right, based on their appearances, you know. So military-age males, for example, assumptions about men potentially or active combatants also reinforce gender norms regarding male violence, which in turn legitimizes them as targets feeding into the cycle of gender-based violence. So it will make it worse. That's just it. So killer robots, I mean, people who are proponents of killer robots, they often argue, that's the painful thing, that fully autonomous robots wouldn't get angry, tired, feel pain, feel anger, or wouldn't even act in self-defense or make rash decisions in the heat of the moment. These are machines. These are machines. Anything could go wrong. You know, machines don't have emotions like we do. They don't have emotions like we do. They don't have conscience, you see? So an inanimate object such as weapon system would also lack empathy too. Conscience, emotions, understanding of human rights and human dignity. What else is left when your human dignity is taken away? Machines don't know what human dignities are. So what human dignity is rather. So we humans have that empathy. We have that conscience that machines don't have. So these tools of human judgment are crucial for making the complex ethical and moral decisions required for soldiers in combat. So we discovered that development and use of this fully autonomous weapons would further dehumanize warfare and killing and perpetrate patriarchal structures that are already there. And this would make or enhance military violence. You see? So fully autonomous weapons would select and engage targets determined by sensor processing using sensor identifiable characteristics without human control, because there's no meaningful human control. So you can imagine how disastrous that will be. I mean, once it is allowed, it's been produced and we need to stop it. And that's why we're campaigners. We want to stop it before it's late. We don't want, prevention is always the best in peace building. Prevention and then trying to cure the disease after you've, gotten it. So fully autonomous weapons would select and engage targets determined by sensor processing, obviously. And in essence, this would reduce humans to patterns of data or lines of code. You can imagine. Why would we produce something that will harm us? Does it make sense? This becomes even more dangerous when considering the possibility that bias could be programmed into algorithms contained in fully autonomous weapons. It could be programmed in, it could be targets for racial ones too. Already we have racial issues around the world, globally. Lots of social injustice. So this can make it worse because it's easier to operate this way when you have a lot of, these things within you. So emerging technologies like facial and vocal recognition have been proven to have high failure rates recognizing women, people of color. You see, so when you say people of color, it means a lot. These are marginalized people. These are people who've been oppressed for years and in a structured way that is difficult to contain. So it's going to be worse. Are we getting any better? Are we uniting? The world needs compassion more than ever before. Not killer robots. We need compassion. The climate is falling apart because this is all tied to these issues. We don't have compassion. We don't want even nature to exist. You see? So we're killing nature and we're killing ourselves. So what are we saying? The use of fully autonomous weapons would likely result in a higher risk for these groups, obviously. So killer robots would not end sexual violence and conflict. That's just it. It won't. It would rather make it worse. But and it would likely perpetuate it as fully autonomous weapons would not question an order to rape. You can imagine. It would not question an order to even mass rape women. Already we know what weapons of war, how women's bodies have become, weapons of war. You know what that has created during the wartime. So if programmed to do so, rape and sexual violence are used as weapons in conflict and are already ordered by states and armed groups as a matter of strategic policy of inflicting terror on women. And you can imagine what part and role women play during war. How dehumanizing this can be. When you find the war situation, women are the ones who are the nurturers. They're the ones who are losing their brothers, who are losing their husbands, who are losing their sons, their uncles, and they are left to become head of households. And they are also raped, dehumanized, traumatized. So women suffer greatly during wartime, and we shouldn't allow this to continue. Instead of even trying to solve what we have on ground, then we want to make it worse. You can imagine, what hope do we have for the future in all of this? So fully autonomous ones would be even less likely to disobey orders to commit rape than human soldiers. Yes, it would be, because it doesn't have any feeling, it doesn't have any conscience. As a result of their lack of conscience, empathy, or understanding of the act or consequences of sexual violence. They don't understand anything. These are machines, these are ions, these are things that have no feelings, you know? So that's it, my dear. So I don't go on and on.
Yeah, it's really a complex situation.
It is. So women often suffer more in most of these situations because the society already is patriarchal and it's segregated. For marginalized people suffer more. Women fall under that group, marginalized group, you know. The blacks, you know what we suffer. We're blacks, we know what we suffer, and this will also make it worse. You know, we can see what's happening globally. It's not getting any better. It's been like this since God knows. I mean, we know of the transatlantic slave trade. We know of all kinds of genocides that have come and still happening up to today. And if you bring this, it makes it easier to even do worse, you know.
Thank you so much. I'm just thinking how some people will argue that killer robots, it's not a pressing issue in Africa, that there are things that Africa needs to be more concerned about, like hunger, poverty. And, I just want to find out how relevant is the issue of killer robots now in Africa?
Thank you. That's interesting. You see, there's a need to discuss concern raised by killer robots and to walk the paths leading to the inevitable treaty that is needed to prevent an ugly future for a killing machine. I call it a killing machine. When you say that Africa is hungry, and by the way, I always like to correct this notion. Africa is not poor. Africa is not poor. What we have is poverty of minds. What we have is poverty of minds. People don't understand the need to be empathetic, to be compassionate, to know that you are in government or you are in a leadership position to serve and to impact lives. When they get to these positions, they rather steal, they are corrupt, they loot the treasury. And that's what makes Africa poor. We're very rich in resources, human resources, natural resources, what have you. We have it all. There's nothing you don't have on this continent. We should examine ourselves. So Africa is not poor, and we need good leadership, and we need good followers who understand what governance is, So Africa is not poor. I don't like to hear that. What we have is we need to, do things the way it should be done and understand that human rights matter. Human rights matter. We need equality, social, economic equality. And without that, there will always be crisis in Africa. If you tell me what causes war in Africa, the first thing I will tell you is corruption. Oh, yes, there are so many theories, so many research done. Oh, yes, those matter. But let me tell you, number one problem in Africa is corruption. People don't feel a sense of belonging. They don't love their country because of exploitation by their leaders. So they don't have a sense of, I belong to this country, I'm ready to die for this country because this is my country. That feeling is not there. So when they also get there, they are ready to do and undo. So when you say killer robot is not necessary in Africa, I think rather we should be more concerned because we are poor in the sense that, of course, we're rich. When I say we're poor, in the sense that we don't have that money that we need to take care of ourselves, health-wise, to protect ourselves security-wise, and a lot is not in place. Infrastructures are not in place because the government has not provided them. And the ones that are there are not even maintained. So how are we going to survive this sort of problem? And it's getting cheaper. Killer robots are being produced. The more they are being produced, the more they become cheap, So it is necessary for us to draw attention to the urgency of these issues, particularly to these political leaders, about tackling the killer robot threat. They need to know what it is so that they could open negotiations on a treaty to ban them and require meaningful human control over weapon systems that use force. Because when these weapons are mass produced and they are cheap and they come into this place, they will be used even for to settle political scores. We play dirty politics in this part of the world more. They do it elsewhere, but ours is massive. So if this group leaders who have no conscience, if they get these facilities, when I say facilities in this sense, I mean they are able to acquire killer robots. You can imagine what will happen. So they will go get their enemies, they will go get, they will do and undo, and they will perpetrate a lot of evil. So it is necessary to spearhead this. Africa should spearhead this and share the common goal of promoting a rules-based international order. And we're committed to addressing killer robots, along with climate change and other politically relevant issues. Because if you look at climate change, Africa will suffer more. We are not the producers of carbon. We know those who produce it more, but we suffer more. There's drought in Africa, people are dying, and this brings war. It's not that African people are warmongers. We are peace-loving people. Go read African history. We love peace. We love peace. So we have this brotherhood thing. I don't think there's any other race that has this brotherhood, strong brotherhood ties like Africa. We always are brother's keeper. Why have we suddenly turned against ourselves? These are valid questions we should ask ourselves. Why suddenly are we killing ourselves? We are tied to resources. We are tied to external influences. A lot of issues that I don't want to go into. But the point is that we need killer robots to be stopped. And it is a big issue for Africa. It's not about a Western world alone. So telling us that we're poor, we should be concerned about food on our table. Of course, yes, we should be concerned about food on our table. But we should also be concerned about our lives. Because if people who live, who eat, and who are able to survive any other issue. Because when you are dead, nothing else remains. So killer robots is, as it is said, to be killer. So we should at least create awareness and let our leaders know what these issues are, and also join the global community in stopping it, because it's also going to affect us largely.
Thank you very much, Ayo. That was a very powerful one. In your view, what can Sweden, as a technological focused country and arms manufacturer, do to add their voices in the fight against killer robots?
Yeah, Sweden is a country that I don't know. I want to say that it's a peaceful country. There's this, how do I say? You look at Sweden as a country. I always look at Sweden when I think of a country that is very clean. I'm telling you, a country that is very clean. I love the air I breathe when I mean, it's a very clean country. So
I agree.
When you talk about being clean is just, shouldn't be just being clean outwardly. You have to be clean within. So when I say being clean within now, talking about Sweden, I mean Sweden should also spearhead this and stop investing rather. So Sweden should spearhead. I mean, they should showcase their cleanliness that you can see when you come into their country. They should do that and wipe off anything that is dirty. I mean, tied to their name, because Sweden is a good country and a law-abiding. I love Sweden because I'm an ombuds, and Sweden, I mean, you know the history of ombuds persons, ombuds institutions. It came from that country. So I love Sweden. I don't have anything against Sweden. No country is perfect, but the point is that Sweden needs to spearhead this because they have the money, they have the power, they have the wherewithal, they have everything, and they can lead in this. So we want them to be very vibrant in campaigning for stopping killer robots. I don't want to say too much politics. You know, as a peace builder, we shouldn't be talking too much politics and sounding bias here and there and whatever. I know that Sweden also invests in peace building. So I know that a lot. So what they need to do is to step up and join this campaign and be leaders in it, because that will obviously change a lot. They need to invest more money to stop killer robots, and importantly, the laws, legislation, the UN, attend all the meetings, ensure that they are vocal, and they also effect this within the law, because that's the most important thing. The negotiations, they should participate and not miss any of that, and be very, very vocal. So that way they can help. That's the way I see Sweden coming in. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really do agree with you on that, the fact that Sweden is a clean country.
Very clean. I love the breathing the air in Sweden. Very,
yeah.
very clean. Yeah. Very clean. And I love them for their ombuds. I love, because you know, accountability matters, and that is why Africa is where it is today. There's no accountability. No one is accountable to anyone. I'm sure you've heard what Zuma, Zuma is not going to show up unless it's dragged there by force. These are the kind of leaders we have. It's not only Zuma. There are many of them. We have few good ones like the late Kaunda, but there are many more bad ones. So if we have strong institutions like ombuds now, and people will be held accountable. And when I say ombudsman, we have some of them in Nigeria. It doesn't work. It's not independent. I'm talking about the genuine ones, the concrete ones that actually are independent and are doing their job the way it should be done, like you have in countries like Sweden and other countries that have developed these institutions. So I love Sweden. I love Sweden for that.
Okay. Before we round this up, to you, what are some of the effective measures that can be taken to ensure the complete ban of killer robots?
Yeah, as I've mentioned before, the most important thing is advocacy, creating awareness on around the ethical concerns that these machines are able to affect, how they can affect us, the security concerns, the legal concerns, because there are so many legal concerns that we know, because the nature of these weapons could be highly unpredictable. So and only a small people are needed to deploy a large number of fully autonomous weapons and raise concerns about prevention, oversight, and control. So we need this information out so that people know the magnitude of this problem. We need to draw attention to the urgency of these issues. We need to, and we need negotiations. We need international order. We need that. We need that apart from people spearheading campaigns and the government sharing the common goal, promoting rules-based international order, we also need negotiations that will lead to the ultimate ban of this. So these are the issues now. People need to come together, get a law in place to ban this globally. I think starting with states, joining the campaign, ensuring they don't meet meetings, global meetings, and vocally denouncing this. I think these are the ways that we can change this. And nothing changes if the law doesn't change. So the law is very important when you're talking about banning anything globally like this, or even locally. So you need to change laws. And then you need negotiations to do that. So what am I saying? Banning killer robots will entail everyone, especially the most important people, power brokers in the UN. Those, we know them, those countries they're the ones who do these things. They're the ones who promote these things, unfortunately, and they're the ones that can make it happen easily, isn't it? So they need to agree that they know that it's a problem, actually. It's not that they don't know. See, that's where the compassion we'll talk about is. Because if you don't have compassion and conscience for fellow human beings, you'll be selfish and self-centered. And you only think about what you're going to benefit from, your country or yourself personally. So they should not think of the financial benefits or the power that they are trying to exhibit. They should rather think about humanity, saving the human species, and have conscience on the marginalized who suffer most. So negotiations, treaties, banning this, and also awareness creation. I think that's the way forward.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Thank you for joining us today and for all the tremendous work that you and WILPF Ghana have been doing. I remember vividly one of the takeaways I have from your workshop this year, that was in March, is that we must continue to advocate as warriors of peace, as people who want to take control and drive themselves to safety. And with that, I thank you so much for being a great warrior of peace. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Bibi. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's an impromptu because when I wanted it to, we didn't work out. But this is interesting, you know. People need to, I mean, learn more about killer robots. You know, it's interesting. And I thank WILPF for this opportunity. And as we all know, WILPF has been in the forefront over a century campaigning for a safer world, a peaceable world. And I'm proud to be a part of this family. Thank you.
Thank you so much.